So very concerning measure. And one more piece is that there's some recent reporting that, there was a sale downtown, and I think it was the PG&E headquarters, that was $500 million in sales. And if you do the numbers on, 6%, then that would have brought in, that brought in $30 million to the city. And important to note too, the transfer taxes affect sellers. So yes, it affects people who are selling, the property or their homes, but the percentages are tiny until you actually get to $5 million and higher. Then it's like 2.5% and the 5 and the 6%. So it does not affect our, our sort of everyday folks. It's really about the corporate owners.
Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Any questions? Transfer taxes are complicated. They are one of the biggest, like Lee says, sources of revenue in the city. And they go unnoticed because you're not paying out of your property, your own personal property taxes. I think there's things to look at. Why was this poison pill put into Mayor Breed's legislation? She completely cut out the citizenry. Who really benefited? I know ultimately the money does go to the general fund, but there's a small sliver of people who would benefit. Could you tell us who those people would be?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we had the SFDCCC endorsements, we actually had someone from the Housing Action Coalition to come and speak, and they're generally very pro-housing. So when I asked about the technical details, because I kind of want to understand the mechanics of how, this transfer tax works, then I was to understand, well, since it's a tax on the sellers, right? Then what actually happens is that when a developer acquires a commercial property, and then they go through all the permitting and of course all the actual construction, demolition and construction work in order to build this, then the city would go through a process and issue, that certificate of occupancy, and so then it's legitimate, right? Like, well, then you have this, but so who benefits? Where does that exemption happen? Well, it was pointed out to me by Corey Smith from HAC that it actually happens when they sell to investment groups, and I thought that was very telling. So if you really look at this measure, there's nothing in there that says affordable housing, that this would incentivize the building of affordable housing, which, as we know, we all need in San Francisco. This is going to investment groups. And already people have their sites, not just in San Francisco, but all over the Bay Area, all over the country, around housing as investment, not housing for people. So that's very telling. That kind of tells you who will benefit.
Billionaires and the very, very wealthy in these investment groups were the ones that would be benefiting, and they would be essentially taking money away from the city at certain points. But it looks like she works for a group that wants to build housing. Here we have all this housing, potential housing downtown, yet the city then goes and pulls this poison pill. So they're taking really all the rights of the citizenry away. So my thought.
Hey, George, you have another question from
Maury.
Mary. Right.
Yeah, I was just wondering, now I was under the impression that this was only to incentivize people to convert from office space to housing. and you're only talking about one tax, the transfer tax, which will be over and done with. So the rest of the history going forward won't affect anything about property taxes or any of the other fees or development fees or anything. I was under the impression that the point of doing this was to somehow lower the cost of the conversion. Is that at all, Kate? Is that at all true, or is there some other motivation behind it?
No, it actually, no, that is not the case. And in fact, if you're talking about those incentives, we already have them from, state law like AB 2011 that provides for certain streamlining measures when you have like either 100% affordable housing development or you have mixed income development that's in a commercial area. So we have things that are allowing already for this kind of conversion.
But the the tax savings goes to the seller, not the buyer, you're saying? Okay.
Yes, exactly. Mhm.
Good question. But I do want to thank you for coming and everything. So
Thank you, Lee.
yeah, you're
Well,
welcome
thank
to
you.
Thank you, Lee.
stay. But
Very informative.
yeah,
You're
Yes,
welcome and thank you.
and with two such misleading ballot measures,